everybody. Welcome to Midweek. This week we have a special guest, my friend Corey, and if you attend our church, one of your deacons. So, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad you're here. We got a special day today, kind of planned. We'll give you some announcements about the weekend service coming up here in a little bit. And but today, Corey and I wanted to chat. Largely because of his skill set and his involvement in the area of, psychotherapy, just counseling and stuff like that. But so how long have you attended our church now, Corey?
About 7 years.
7 years.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your family.
Married for 17 years. I'm a missionary kid, grew up in Chile. My wife and I, it's again 17 years. We have 3 kids, 14, 12, and 10.
Yeah.
We homeschool our kids, so we're quite active in that.
Homeschooling, you're involved in the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I'm the Scoutmaster here at Salem.
Scoutmaster. Great kids.
Yeah.
Man, they have lovely energy.
Yes, they do.
Vocationally, you got moved here to teach at Corban. What do you teach at Corban?
I teach counseling psychology, undergrad. Yeah.
I don't know of anyone that likes more provocative, kind of provoking kind of questions than Corey. So students love you. And the rest of us say, please, come on. You're always stirring up the pot. But not only are you teaching at Corban, you've developed kind of a private practice, kind of was counseling, but it's almost now you would consider more coaching. What's that?
So I've been licensed for 20 years this past summer. So 20 years as a therapist. And
that's pretty good for the fact that you're only about 34.
Not quite.
Nice. Started counseling at 14.
But yeah, 20 years ago I started, and it's just wild to look at that journey. And one of the things they don't teach you in school is how to run a business. Yeah. So the last 3 years I've been learning and pivoting and realizing the way of helping my heart is much more discipleship. And as I looked at that, it was much more in the coaching realm, and that I have a skill set in the trauma and sexuality and gender area and training and counseling, but I love to walk alongside people just in a different way. Mm-hmm. And the word that resonates with me is the word discipleship.
Yeah. So it's your area and maybe expertise, both in family but also trauma, that kind of cued me up because 6 months we've been in COVID life. And that has had, you can tell, every person, I was just on a Zoom call with a group of people, and every counselor I talk to, their schedules are through the roof. Yes. Absolutely through the roof. One industry said that they had an increase of 859% in that area. So there's a lot of stresses on families right now. I mean, school is unbelievably challenging. But in the area, let's just kind of work through some of the areas that you're seeing. What are you seeing in terms of some of the families? And we're going to focus on the last 6 months. What kind of things are increasing in terms of stress issues and maybe even trauma in particular for families?
The last 6 months, I feel like the first part of the COVID, it was actually a lot of kind of reuniting of families, and then that's over. Now it is high stress, lack of contact with people that I used to be able to trust and spend time with, and then just so much unknown. And then not knowing what to do with my emotions and just, I guess it's back to that relationship stuff. We think that this Zoom and video is enough. Yeah. We know it's not. Yeah. And yet, how many are not returning back to church or to social situations, social groups, or other events that involve people?
So one of the things I hear from you, and we'll hear this thread, isolation. What started off as kind of as a reconnection of family has now developed an increased isolation. You were telling me last night at our deacon meeting that, and I've read it too, the numbers of depression-related suicide in particular is just off the charts. What is it connected to the isolation, to the fear of the world? What's driving that?
Well, if you think of if you're single, who have you talked to lately? I talked to a young man the first week at Corban. He was trying to clear his throat. He's like, sorry, I've been at home for the last 3 months alone, and I haven't talked to anyone. Sat playing video games for 3 months. Mm-hmm. Now he's back in school, and it's like, I haven't done this.
Wow.
That's terrifying. How many have now moved remote for their work? And moving remote also meant home alone also.
Yeah.
And then for those that have maybe in a smaller space, they're home alone with higher stress, trying to get work done in small space with kids and dogs and just an energy that just increases stress.
You know, and we're not here to take sides on this political issue, but that social distancing has created massive isolation. And I know it's really becoming something that you see about, and I hear about a lot, is the increase of dementia and the rapidness of that in some of our seniors who are isolated, can't have visits. I was just talking with a gal today that her mom had been virtually isolated from her for 6 months, other than periodic kind of Zooms. And, you know, a 91-year-old mom is not high on technical skill sets, right? Some of them are, but this one's not. So again, family dynamic, a lot of pressure, a lot of isolation. Individuals, the depression's rising, a lot of suicides. Suicides gone through the roof. I was listening to a podcast, Carrie Newhoff, who's a pastor and communicator out of Canada. And one of the things he said that's happening in our culture is the decreasing of trust. People, because what we're finding out are there are fewer things that we have safety in that we can agree upon. And we have seen that in the church. And it kind of grieves us, and we talked about it last night as a deacon board, where, again, people are becoming isolated because they're afraid of the disagreement. They're afraid that if they have a differing view than somebody, doesn't matter. I mean, you could list the 5, 6 hot topics, and we all know what they are. And it's creating a massive isolation. So let's transition a little bit. In the scriptures, it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And if you're going to be a peacemaker, you got to be in a relationship. I don't know too many people that do peacemaking well on Zoom, as we are delivering this on some platform. Yeah. How are you helping families, individuals that you're working with? And for us, we want to be a church for the city. And what that means is we're really a church for people. We want to help people. Now, if they completely isolate themselves, we're going to have a hard time. But as we enter into this thing and we begin to listen and we start to hear the depression, maybe even suicidal tendencies, isolation, that walled up stuff, really fear about, you know, do you think we should vote on the Supreme Court justice? Do you think we should hold? Do you think we should cancel, you know, Netflix? Do you think we should keep it? Do you think we can go on forever, right? All right. How do you help us? What some thoughts that you can share with us for ourselves and for others that we love to address this isolation, fear of each other, and increasing depression and even suicidal thoughts?
The first thing that comes to mind is what do you put into your mind, your head, your heart? Mm-hmm. The amount of content being consumed that is actually is poisoning us. Dr. Daniel Amen talks about the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. You don't have control of your thoughts.
I knew I didn't like ants.
No.
Automatic negative thoughts.
So
That's
these
good.
ants coming in, I've got to be able to look at that. Is that true? And if it's not true, kill it. It's got to be done. But for so many of us, we're living in this world of just constant negative thoughts.
Yeah.
It's pervasive because of the political and issues in our world right now. And to me, it's what am I consuming? What am I putting in my head, my heart? Is it Netflix? Are you one of those that's like, I'm done with Netflix now in the sense of I've finished watching it all? Because
I never had it.
Yeah,
so
good.
I'm going to opt out of that one.
Yeah, or whatever other thing you're consuming. Or is it something more of, am I bathing my head and heart with Scripture and the people I put myself around? I remember years ago, I went to dinner with this guy a number of times, and I'd come home and my wife would go, you need to not have lunch with him anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
You're telling me what to do? And she was right. She said, every time you eat with him, you come home so negative about your job and the world.
Yeah.
Good man, Christian man, but it's like who you hang around, who you listen to.
So one of the things is evaluate input.
Valued input.
What next?
Who are you spending time with?
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing about the Zoom and video. Right now, the current research I've seen is a lot of counselors are moving their practices online.
Yeah.
And the effectiveness is similar, if not the same. Some would even say better. Because what's happening is it's less about the emotion. Where face-to-face, we tend to be more of the emotion. Mm-hmm. Move it a little more, I guess, cold. Mm-hmm. And some deeper places can be reached. And it's actually neat. So reach out to a counselor, reach out to someone. And that actually is better than nothing. But they're actually finding is actually might even be better.
And I would concur with you. There's absolutely times for counselors, but I'm also the highest value in the world of just healthy relationships. Reach out to somebody, because isolation is not your friend. It's really one of the tools of the enemy. Is, and that's actually one of my concerns of the practice of the streaming, because I was reading an article about streaming as the church of the future. And I'm thinking, man, I hope not. I think if that would have been the case, God would have probably streamed the life of Jesus from heaven, but he sent him. Yep. So, be careful of the input. Mm-hmm. Pursue relationships.
And you're not going to want to. We have now been trained because of what's happened.
Yeah.
If you're an introvert, you are actually probably pretty okay, you think, most of the time.
It's interesting.
But you're not probably okay.
I don't know all of the introvert friends I have, but virtually every one of them have said, man, I've loved this season. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
And you get complacent.
Yeah. Let's go to the last. What can we do if we want to be a church for the city to say, we are living in neighborhoods filled with fear, probably a lot of abuse, more than we'd care to admit.
Gosh, yes.
And a lot of people who are despairing at a pretty high level. They may give us the picture that they're doing okay, but they're not. Give me one or two things that I can kind of put in my toolbox to become a peacemaker, move towards people, love people, listen. What do I need to listen for?
People are hurting. I mean, people are afraid. We're in a mess. We all have an opinion, but I think kind of what you said there in the beginning is we have isolated so much that we don't know who to trust. And the irony is the church should be the place we can trust. Yeah. Do we agree? That's different. So it's being able to be in dialogue with people I disagree with. And it's still a relationship. It's beautiful as a body of Christ, as Christians. We're almost losing that if we're not careful. The ability to have that. Because if we're not on the same page, either politically or socially, then we can't be in a relationship. And it's breaking. I mean, Satan is having a heyday right now.
That is such a great insight. Ben Carson in his book said one of the things that we've lost, and it's been out 5-6 years plus, is the ability to dialogue. But maybe your insight is kind of an expectation that maybe we shouldn't have. That I can't have a relationship with you unless we agree upon everything. Right. And that's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And it's not biblical.
On any given day, I disagree with myself. So,
it's true.
Moderately schizophrenic coming to you live here from Babylon.
And marriage.
Right.
Show me a marriage where the couple agrees on everything. No, that's not the point.
I agree with pretty much everything Carrie says.
Well, but because you've been trained well. Just kidding.
Exactly.
Marriage.
Did Carrie call you last night? All right. If somebody wants some professional help, you're available. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really not why we're here. You're here as a deacon. You're here as my friend. But we want to see folks helped, and I'm acutely aware that a lot of people are facing huge challenges. So,
and like you said, church for the city, church for the people.
Yeah.
How can we? A lot of it's you reaching out to us too. Of if there's areas and ways that we can. Yeah. Because we want to, there's a desire to, and this is unprecedented times, and it's not okay.
I really like that. There is an invitation to staff to our deacons, to Corey. Reach out. Yeah, we want you to. Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure.
Sincerely. Hey, a couple things. This weekend is our last weekend outside. God has dialed up for us a beautiful day. It's going to be 74 degrees, bright blue sky, no smog. Can you believe it? Doesn't get any better than that. So come on down, bring your donuts, bring your bagels, and your kids and your neighbor. And we will have a great time this weekend. Saturday night to Sunday morning. Now, the next week, that's when the adventure really begins. Saturday night's going to be the same. Do you sign up? No, you show up. Sunday morning, do you sign up? No, you show up. 2 different times, 9 o'clock and at 11 o'clock. Where do you go? Well, your big issue is get here. Come to the parking lot, come to the parking garage, come to First Lube, park. Your community group leader should have connected with you. If not, call that person. Secondly, come on down. At 9 o'clock, we're going to have 3 locations that you can do church. And you'll come either into the gym, separate entrance to the Community Life Center, another separate entrance over there to the sanctuary. And we will do 3 different locations. What will happen? I will start preaching in one location. The worship team's going to be in another, and we have another worship team in another. I think actually this weekend is the communion one, so don't forget what I just said. We're going to rotate around with communion, worship, and the preaching. And so it's going to be live, except for one area is going to have the video from Saturday night. So every Sunday morning, we're going to have 2 live and 1 video, and we rotate that so that nobody I got stuck in the place that always gets the video. Well, you don't. We're going to rotate that. And so 9 o'clock, 3 different locations. You come here, we're going to have distribution, kind of like when you see at an airport where a guy's kind of waving the orange flags and sending the airplanes this way and this way. We're going to be doing that, and we're going to be putting people around. They're going to have not walkie-talkies, we call them radios, and they're going to be talking, it's and we're going to distribute folks around, but we're starting with community groups, we're going with small groups, and then a lot of folks are going to show up. So we have all kinds of space, separate entrances. We'll have placards that show you how to get there, separate restrooms, separate chairs, same Jesus. Can it get any better than that? Man, I cannot wait to see you. This weekend, parking lot. Come on down. Bring your sanitation equipment. It's going to be phenomenal. Next weekend, after that, first weekend in October, it is the grand adventure. Again, thanks, my brother, for coming down.
Pleasure.
Sure appreciate you a lot. One of Corban's finest. Yeah, and the rest of all the faculty that attend here. God bless you. We love you. See you soon.